The planet Kepler-7b was a quiet world at the edge of human space. It had green forests, clean rivers, and air that smelled like spring rain. But the most special thing on this planet was not its beauty. It was a building made of white stone that sat on top of a gentle hill. The locals called it Starlight Haven. It was an orphanage. Director Alina Vasquez stood at the window of her office and watched the children playing outside. She was 63 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. 20 years ago, she had been a military commander. She had fought in terrible wars and seen things that still visited her in her dreams. But those days were behind her now. She had found a new purpose. 312 children lived at Starlight Haven. They came from many different species. Human children played alongside Velthari younglings with their blue skin and 4 arms. Corn cubs with their fur and gentle eyes chased balls across the grass, and in the corner of the playground, sitting alone under a tree, was a young Zythani girl named Kira. Alina smiled sadly when she looked at Kira. The Zythani had been humanity's greatest enemy. The war between their species had killed millions on both sides. But Kira was not a soldier. She was just a child who had lost her parents to that same war. When Alina had first brought Zyvani orphans to the haven, many people were angry. They said she was a traitor. They asked how she could care for the children of their enemies. Her answer was always the same. Children are never the enemy. The Galactic Council did not understand this. The Council was made of 12 ancient species who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They watched humanity with suspicious eyes. Humans had risen too fast. They had grown too strong. And worst of all, they showed kindness to those they defeated. The Council did not trust kindness. They believed it was a trick. Ambassador Theron Malik was the human representative to the Council. He was a patient man who had spent 30 years trying to build bridges between humanity and the elder species. But lately, those bridges were burning. The Council blocked human trade. They rejected human proposals. They whispered lies about human intentions. Malik did not know that the Council was planning something far worse, in a secret meeting that Malik was not invited to. High Adjudicator Varanthas of the Mithrani species stood before the Council members. Varanthas was tall and thin with scales that shimmered like oil on water. His eyes were cold and empty like deep space. He had never liked humans. He feared what they might become. The human colony on Kepler-7b is a threat, Varanthas said. His voice was smooth and calm. Our intelligence shows they are building weapons there. The facility they call an orphanage is actually a military installation. This was a lie. Varanthas knew it was a lie, but he also knew the Council wanted to believe it. They were afraid of humanity, and fear makes people do terrible things. The vote was quick. Resolution 7 Omega passed with 9 votes in favor and 3 abstaining. No one voted against it. The resolution declared Kepler-7b a strategic threat and authorized its destruction. On Kepler-7b, life continued as normal. Alina had no idea what was coming. She spent her morning helping a young human boy named Thomas with his reading. Thomas was 7 years old and had been found alone on a destroyed colony ship 2 years ago. He did not speak for his first 6 months at the haven. Now he laughed and smiled and called Alina grandmother. What does this word mean? Thomas asked, pointing at his book. Alina looked at the word. It was hope. It means believing that good things will come, she said. Even when times are dark, Thomas thought about this. I have hope, he said, because I found you. Alina hugged him tightly. Moments like this made everything worth it. That afternoon, the sky changed. Alina was in the garden with a group of Velthari children when she heard a strange sound. She looked up and felt her heart turn to ice. Warships, dozens of them. They hung in the sky like dark clouds blocking out the sun. Her communicator buzzed. It was a message from one of the Council ships. Human facility on Kepler-7b. You have 1 hour to surrender all weapons and military personnel. Failure to comply will result in orbital bombardment. Alina's hand shook as she opened a channel to respond. This is Director Alina Vasquez of Starlight Haven Orphanage. There are no weapons here. There are no soldiers. There are only children. 312 children. Please, I am sending you our records. Check them. You will see the truth. She sent everything. Medical files, school records, photos of birthday parties and holiday celebrations. Proof that Starlight Haven was exactly what it appeared to be. The response came from High Adjudicator Varenthus himself. His face appeared on her screen, cold and unmoved. Your lies do not deceive us, human. We know what you are hiding. Prepare for judgment. Alina felt despair wash over her. She grabbed her communicator and sent an emergency message to Earth. She described what was happening. She begged for help. But Earth was far away, and help would not come in time. She gathered the staff together. Get the children to the underground shelter, she ordered. Maybe it will protect them. Maybe there is still a chance. The staff moved quickly. Teachers and caretakers guided confused and frightened children down into the basement levels. Little Kira, the Zythani girl, grabbed Elena's hand. What is happening? Kira asked. Her voice was small and scared. Alina knelt down and looked into the child's eyes. I do not know, little one, but I need you to be brave. Can you do that for me? Kira nodded. Alina led her toward the shelter. But she knew in her heart that it would not be enough. The shelter was designed to protect against storms, not orbital weapons. She was leading these children to their graves. There was nothing she could do to stop it. The first blast hit the eastern wing of the orphanage. The ground shook like an earthquake. Children screamed. Dust and debris filled the air. Alina held Kira close and kept moving, kept trying to reach safety that did not exist. The second blast was closer. Alina saw the ceiling crack above her. She threw herself over Kira and two other children. A human girl named Sophie and a corn cub named Bryn. She covered them with her body as the world turned to fire and thunder. On Earth, the transmission cut out. The last image received was Alina Vasquez, her arms wrapped around three crying children, her eyes closed in prayer. Then there was only static. The satellite footage would later show the complete destruction of Starlight Haven. The white stone building was reduced to a smoking crater. 312 children, 47 staff members, all gone in minutes. High Adjudicator Varenthus watched the destruction from his command ship. He felt no guilt. He felt nothing at all. The threat has been eliminated, he reported to the council. Humanity will protest, but they will do nothing. They are too soft, too weak, too human. He was wrong. He was very, very wrong. Far away, on a blue planet called Earth, the news was spreading, and humanity was not feeling soft. They were not feeling weak. They were feeling something that the Galactic Council had never truly understood. They were feeling rage. Earth fell silent when the news arrived. It spread across the planet like a wave of cold water. News channels stopped their regular programs. People gathered in streets and homes and watched their screens with disbelief. 312 children, 47 caretakers, all dead, murdered by the Galactic Council. President Catherine Shaw sat alone in her office. She was a strong woman who had led humanity through difficult times, but now her hands trembled as she watched the satellite footage again and again. She saw Alina Vasquez covering those children with her body. She saw the flash of fire. She saw the crater where a place of love and healing had once stood. Her assistant knocked on the door. Madam President, Ambassador Malik is here. Malik entered the room. He looked like a man who had aged 20 years in a single day. His eyes were red from crying. His voice was hoarse when he spoke. I've resigned from my position, he said. I will address the council one final time before I leave. I wanted you to know what I plan to say. President Shaw nodded. Speak freely. Malik took a deep breath. I will not shout at them. I will not threaten them. I will simply tell them the truth. That they have made the greatest mistake in the history of this galaxy. That they have awakened something they do not understand. And that whatever comes next is entirely their own doing. On Mars, a man named David Chen sat in his small apartment and stared at a photograph. It showed a young Velthari girl with blue skin and a bright smile. Her name was Lyra. She was 8 years old. David had been saving money for 3 years to complete the adoption process. He had already decorated a room for her. He had bought her books and toys and a telescope because she loved looking at the stars. Now she was gone. She would never come home. She would never look through that telescope. She would never know how much he already loved her. David Chen did not cry. He was past crying. He simply sat in silence and felt his heart turn to stone. Admiral James Harrison received the news while inspecting a naval station near Saturn. They called him Stone because of his calm expression that never changed no matter what happened. He had earned that nickname during the HFY War, where he had commanded the most dangerous missions without showing fear. But today, Stone Harrison felt something crack inside him. He had lost his own daughter in the HFY War. After the war ended, he had personally funded the construction of Starlight Haven. He had wanted to create something good from all that death. He had wanted to give children a second chance. Now that dream was ashes. His second-in-command approached him carefully. "Sir, we have received orders from Earth. The First Fleet is being reactivated. You have been given command." Harrison's eyes became hard as diamonds. The First Fleet was humanity's most powerful weapon. It had been sealed away after the HFY War as a symbol of peace. 2,000 warships with technology that no other species could match. Humanity had locked them away to show the galaxy that they wanted cooperation, not conquest. The galaxy had responded by murdering their children. "Prepare my shuttle," Harrison said. "We have work to do." Ambassador Malik stood before the Galactic Council for the last time. The great chamber was filled with representatives from the 12 elder species. They looked at him with expressions ranging from boredom to contempt. "You asked to speak, human?" said the council speaker. "Make it brief." Malik looked at each of them in turn. He memorized their faces. He wanted to remember every single one of them. "I will be brief," he said. "I came to you in good faith. Humanity came to you in good faith. We asked only for peace. We asked only to trade and cooperate and grow together. And when we showed mercy to our former enemies, when we raised their orphan children as our own, you called it suspicious. You called it a trick." He paused. The chamber was completely silent. 312 children died yesterday. Human children. Velthari children. Corn children. Zythani children. Children who had already lost everything and had finally found a home. You destroyed that home. You killed those children. And you did it based on lies that you knew were lies. High Adjudicator Voranthus shifted in his seat but said nothing. "I am not here to threaten you," Malik continued. "I am not here to declare war. I am here to tell you that you have made a mistake that cannot be undone. You looked at humanity and saw weakness because we showed compassion. You thought our soft hearts made us harmless?" He shook his head slowly. "You were wrong. You have awakened something old and terrible. Something we locked away because we were afraid of what we might become. And whatever happens next, you did this. Remember that. You did this." He turned and walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop him. President Shaw addressed the United Human Worlds the next day. Billions of people watched across dozens of planets. She stood at a simple podium with no decorations and no flags. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with cold fire. "Oh, my fellow humans," she began. "Yesterday, the Galactic Council committed an act of murder against our children. I will not describe the details. You have all seen them. You all know what was done." She held up a sheet of paper. "I am going to read some names. I ask that you listen." And then she read. She read the name of every single child who died at Starlight Haven. Thomas, age 7. Lyra, age 8. Kira, age 6. Sophie, age 5. Bryn, age 4. On and on, 312 names. It took nearly an hour. No one looked away. No one turned off their screens. The galaxy watched as humanity mourned. When she finished, President Shaw set down the paper. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all treaties with the Galactic Council. All trade agreements are canceled. All diplomatic relations are severed. We ask to be left in peace to raise our children and heal our enemies' children." The council answered with fire. She looked directly into the camera. Now they will see how humanity answers. In the darkness of space, far from any inhabited system, the first fleet began to wake. 2,000 warships powered up their engines for the first time in 15 years. Their weapon systems came online. Their crews took their positions. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Remembrance. He had chosen that name himself, long ago, in memory of his daughter. Now, it had a new meaning. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his first officer said. Harrison nodded. "Set course for the Mithrani home system. Maximum speed, sir. That will take 3 weeks."
I know.
That gives the Council 3 weeks to think about what they have done. 3 weeks to remember that we warned them. 3 weeks to realize that we are coming. First officer hesitated. "Sir, the Mithrani system is heavily defended. They have over 8,000 ships." Harrison turned to look at her. For the first time in years, something like a smile crossed his face. But it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. "Good," he said. "Then it will be a fair fight." The first fleet jumped to faster than light speed and vanished into the darkness. Behind them, they left a galaxy that was only beginning to understand what it had awakened. The Galactic Council had poked a sleeping giant. Now that giant was awake, and it was coming for them. 3 weeks passed, and the galaxy held its breath. Human ships disappeared from every trade route. Human colonies went dark. Human voices fell silent on every communication channel. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the universe. The Galactic Council pretended not to be afraid. In public, they mocked humanity's emotional tantrum and predicted that humans would calm down eventually. They told each other that humanity was weak, that their compassion made them harmless, that they would never actually do anything dangerous. But in private, the Council was terrified. Their spies sent scattered reports. Human ships had been spotted near the outer rim, then near the Corn border, then in the empty space between galaxies, but the reports were confusing and contradictory. The first fleet was moving, but no one could figure out where it was going. High Adjudicator Varanthus knew exactly where it was going. He had read Ambassador Malik's final speech 100 times. He understood the threat, but he refused to show fear. Fear was weakness. Varanthus had spent his entire life proving that he was not weak. He ordered every available, or any warship to return to the home system. 8,000 vessels gathered in orbit around Mithrin Prime, their weapons charged and ready. It was the largest defensive fleet ever assembled by any species. Varanthus looked at the wall of ships and felt confident again. "Let them come," he told his generals. "No force in the galaxy can break through our defenses. The humans will see our strength and retreat like the cowards they are." His generals agreed with him because they were afraid to disagree. But deep down, they wondered if Varanthus truly believed his own words. On the bridge of the Remembrance, Admiral Harrison gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. The first fleet had traveled in complete silence for 3 weeks, using routes that no other species knew existed. They had avoided all detection. They were now just 6 hours from the Mithrani system. Lieutenant Sarah Chen stood among the officers. She was 28 years old with dark hair and steady eyes. Her brother Michael had been a teacher at Starlight Haven. He had died protecting his students when the first blast hit. Sarah had joined the fleet the day she heard the news. "I know what we are about to do," Harrison said. "I know the history books may call us villains. I know some of you may have doubts." He paused and looked at each officer in turn. "I am giving everyone one final chance to transfer out. Any crew member who does not wish to participate in this mission may leave now. No one will judge you. No one will think less of you." The room was silent. No one moved. Lieutenant Chen spoke up. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" "Granted. My brother died trying to shield a 6-year-old Zithani girl from orbital fire. He was a teacher. He had never held a weapon in his life. The Council called him a military threat." Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with cold fire. "History is written by survivors, Admiral. I intend to survive. And I intend to make sure history remembers what really happened." Harrison nodded slowly. Does anyone else wish to speak? One by one, the officers shared their thoughts. They spoke of children they had known at the Haven. They spoke of friends and family who had donated money to the orphanage. They spoke of the dream that humanity had tried to build, a dream of compassion and healing, and how the Council had destroyed that dream with fire. When they finished, Harrison straightened his shoulders. Very well. Prepare for arrival. And remember our rules of engagement. We are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. There is a difference. The First Fleet prepared for battle. But before they attacked, Harrison had one more thing to do. He opened a communication channel to the Mithrani system. His message was broadcast on all frequencies so that every ship, every station, and every person in the system could hear it. This is Admiral James Harrison of the United Human Worlds. I am addressing the military command of the Mithrani people. You have 72 hours to surrender high. Adjudicator Varinthus, and every official who voted for Resolution 7 Omega, they will face trial for their crimes against children. He paused to let the words sink in. I am also addressing the civilians of the Mithrani system. We are not here to harm you. We are not here to destroy your homes or kill your families. You are not our enemies. Your leaders made a choice to murder innocents. You did not make that choice. His voice became hard as iron. But make no mistake. If your leaders do not surrender, we will come for them. We will break your military fleet. We will tear down your defenses. And we will take Varanthus by force. You have 72 hours to decide what kind of people you want to be. The message ended. The countdown began. In the Mithrani command center, Varanthus watched the message with growing rage. He had expected threats and anger. He had not expected this cold, calculated calm. It frightened him more than any amount of shouting would have. They are bluffing, he said to his generals. 2,000 ships against 8,000? They would be insane to attack. Sir, one general said carefully, should we perhaps evacuate the civilian population? Just in case? Varanthus wanted to refuse. Evacuation would look like weakness. But he remembered the footage from the HFY War. He remembered what human ships had done to enemy fleets. And despite his pride, he was not quite ready to bet civilian lives on his confidence. Fine, he snapped. Move the civilians to the orbital stations at the edge of the system. But this is purely a precaution. The humans will never reach them. The evacuation began. Millions of Mithrani civilians were transported to safety stations far from the planet. It took 2 full days to complete the process. And during those 2 days, the First Fleet waited in silence. Watching, counting on the 3rd day the deadline arrived, Varanthus broadcast his response. To the human fleet, we do not negotiate with terrorists. We do not surrender to lesser species. If you want war, you will have it. Come and face the might of the Mithrani Empire. We will teach you the cost of threatening your betters. He cut the transmission and smiled. Now they will see what happens when primitives challenge a true civilization. Admiral Harrison watched the response on his bridge. He had expected nothing less. He had hoped for better, but he was not surprised. All ships, he said calmly, prepare for synchronized jump. We enter the system in exactly 4 minutes. Lieutenant Chen looked at her console. Sir, their fleet is in defensive formation. They are expecting a scattered arrival. I know. That is why we will not give them one. The First Fleet aligned perfectly. Every ship locked coordinates with every other ship. This was something no other species could do. Human technology, human coordination, human precision. 2,000 ships moving as a single unit. Jump in 3 minutes, the navigator announced. Harrison thought of his daughter. He thought of Alina Vasquez. He thought of 312 children who would never grow up. Jump in 60 seconds. He thought of the dream that humanity had tried to build. A galaxy where compassion was not weakness. A galaxy where children of all species could grow up safe and loved. Jump in 10 seconds. The Council had burned that dream. Now Harrison would show them the cost. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The first fleet jumped. In the Mithrani system, 8,000 warships waited in perfect formation. Their sensors scanned space constantly, watching for the scattered signatures of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Instead, they saw something impossible. 2,000 human ships appeared at the same instant, not scattered across space, not arriving in waves. All of them at once. In a single line of fire and metal that stretched across the sky like a wall, Voranthus stared at his tactical display. His confident smile disappeared. "What is this?" he whispered. "How is this possible?" No one had an answer. No one in the galaxy had ever seen anything like this. The largest coordinated jump in history. Perfect synchronization across 2,000 vessels. Admiral Harrison opened a final channel. His voice was calm as a frozen lake. "We are here." The Battle of Mithrin Prime was about to begin. The battle began not with weapons, but with silence. Every screen on every Mithrani ship suddenly went dark. Navigation systems crashed. Communication networks collapsed. Targeting computers displayed nothing but errors. 8,000 warships became blind and deaf in an instant. Human. Electronic warfare systems had struck first. The Mithrani commanders shouted orders that no one could hear. Ships tried to form defensive groups but could not coordinate. They could not tell friend from enemy. Captains made decisions alone, guessing at where the human fleet might be. They guessed wrong. Admiral Harrison watched the chaos from the bridge of the Remembrance. His tactical display showed everything in perfect detail. Every Mithrani ship was tagged and tracked. Every movement was predicted. The humans could see everything while their enemies saw nothing. "First wave," Harrison ordered. "Target their command ships only. Precision strikes." 200 human vessels surged forward. Their weapons fired with perfect accuracy. They did not aim for destruction. They aimed for communication arrays, engine systems, and weapon controls. One by one, Mithrani command ships went silent. Not destroyed, but disabled. Helpless. The remaining Mithrani fleet panicked. Without orders from their commanders, captains made individual choices. Some charged toward the human line. Some retreated. Some fired blindly into space, hitting nothing but empty void. Lieutenant Chen tracked a group of 30 Mithrani. Ships that broke formation and fled toward the civilian stations. "Admiral, we have runners heading toward the evacuation zone. Intercept them. Gently. Disable their engines, but do not destroy them." "Yes." "Sir." A squadron of human ships peeled away from the main fleet. They caught up to the fleeing vessels in minutes. Precise shots disabled their engines. The Mithrani ships drifted harmlessly in space, their crews confused but alive. Back in the main battle, the Mithrani defense was collapsing. Human ships moved with impossible coordination. Every action was planned. Every movement was synchronized. They flowed around enemy formations like water around stones. High Adjudicator Voranthus watched the destruction from his command ship. His hands shook with fury. "Fire everything!" He screamed, "All weapons, all ships, fire at once." The Mithrani fleet unleashed everything it had. Thousands of missiles and energy beams filled the space around them. It was the largest weapons discharge in galactic history. It hit almost nothing. The human ships danced through the barrage. Their AI systems predicted every shot. Their pilots executed perfect evasive maneuvers. A few missiles found their marks, damaging some human vessels. But nothing critical was hit. The humans responded with their own weapons. But these were not the weapons the galaxy knew. These were weapons that humanity had kept secret. New technology that had been developed during the HFY War and then locked away as humanity sought peace. Mithrani shields. The strongest in the galaxy collapsed like paper. Ships that had withstood enemy fire for decades were crippled by single shots. The technology gap was not small. It was enormous. "How?" a Mithrani general whispered as he watched his fleet die. How did they become so powerful? The answer was simple. Humanity had always been powerful. They had simply chosen not to show it. They had hidden their strength because they wanted peace. They had pretended to be weaker than they were because they hoped the galaxy would accept them as partners, but fear them as conquerors. The Council had taken that peaceful hand and slapped it away. Now they were seeing the fist that had always been hidden behind it. Admiral Harrison issued new orders throughout the battle. Protect escape pods. Do not fire on surrendering vessels. Keep civilian stations clear. His officers obeyed without question. Throughout the chaos of battle, human ships went out of their way to avoid unnecessary death. When a Mithrani cruiser exploded, human vessels moved to rescue survivors floating in space. When a group of damaged ships raised white flags, human escorts guided them to safety. The Mithrani noticed this. They were being destroyed, but they were being destroyed with mercy. It confused them. It frightened them more than pure destruction would have. Varanthus saw the battle turning against him. His confident smile was long gone. His face was pale with fear. He had only one option left. "Get me a channel to my most loyal captains," he ordered. "I have a final command for them." His communication officer hesitated. "Sir, the humans have blocked most of our channels. Only short-range systems are working." "Then use short-range. Do it now." A handful of loyal captains received Varanthus's message. His orders were horrifying. If he was going to die, he wanted to take innocent lives with him. He commanded these captains to fire on the civilian stations where millions of Mithrani had evacuated. If the humans wanted to save civilians, let them try to save these. 3 Mithrani warships broke from the battle and accelerated toward the civilian stations. Their weapons powered up. Their targeting systems locked on 2 stations filled with women, children, and elderly Mithrani who had done nothing wrong. Admiral Harrison saw it immediately. All nearby ships, intercept those vessels. Protect those stations at all costs. 15 human ships changed course. They raced toward the fleeing Mithrani vessels. It would be close. The Mithrani ships were already in firing range. Lieutenant Chen was among the intercepting pilots. Her ship, the Mercy's Edge, was the fastest in the fleet. She pushed her engines beyond safe limits. Warning lights flashed across her console. She ignored them. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on." The Mithrani ships began to fire. Missiles streaked toward the civilian stations. Chen's ship arrived just in time. She placed her vessel directly in the path of the missiles. Her point defense systems activated, shooting down missile after missile. The other human ships arrived seconds later. Forming a shield between the attackers and the innocents, not a single missile reached the civilian stations. The attacking Mithrani vessels were quickly disabled. Their crews were captured, alive, to face trial for their attempted crime. In the center of the battle, Varanthus tried to escape. His personal cruiser broke away from the chaos and burned toward empty space. He had a backup plan. He had hidden wealth on a dozen worlds. He could disappear, change his identity, live out his days in comfort while others paid for his decisions. Admiral Harrison had other plans. The Remembrance. Varanthus's cruiser was fast, but the Remembrance was faster. Within minutes, Harrison's ship was alongside the fleeing vessel. "High Adjudicator Varanthus Harrison broadcast. You are ordered to surrender. You will face trial for your crimes. This is your only warning." Varanthus responded with weapons fire. His cruiser was small, but it carried powerful weapons. Several shots hit the Remembrance, causing minor damage. Harrison did not flinch. "Target his engines and weapons. Do not destroy the ship." Remembrance fired with surgical precision. Varanthus's engines died. His weapons went silent. His ship drifted helplessly in space. "I will never surrender," Varanthus screamed into his communicator. "I am High Adjudicator of the Mithrani Empire. I am above your primitive justice." Harrison's voice remained calm. "You murdered 312 children. You are above nothing." A boarding team breached Varanthus's ship. They found him hiding in his quarters, surrounded by broken furniture and scattered documents. He tried to fight. He lasted about 4 seconds against trained human soldiers. They took him alive, as ordered. The battle ended 3 hours after it began. Over 6,000 Mithrani warships had been destroyed or captured. The remaining ships had surrendered. Human casualties were minimal. Civilian casualties were zero. Admiral Harrison stood on his bridge and surveyed the aftermath. He felt no joy. He felt no satisfaction. He only felt tired. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council," he said. "I have a message for them." The channel opened. Every member of the council saw Harrison's face on their screens. "High Adjudicator Varanthus is in our custody. He will stand trial for his crimes. The trial will be broadcast across the galaxy. You will all watch. You will all see the evidence, and then you will understand what we do next." He paused. His eyes were hard as stone. "This is not over. This is not even the beginning of the end. This is merely the end of the beginning. Humanity has been patient. Humanity has been kind. That patience and kindness were answered with murder. Now you will see what humanity does when patience runs out." He cut the channel. In the council chambers, the elder species sat in stunned silence. They had just watched their most powerful military force crushed in ours. They had just seen technology that should not exist. They had just learned that everything they believed about humanity was wrong. They were not soft. They were not weak. They were not harmless. And they were very, very angry. The trial of High Adjudicator Varanthus was broadcast across every inhabited system in the galaxy. Billions of beings from hundreds of species watched as the most powerful official in the Mithrani Empire was led into a human courtroom in chains. His scales had lost their shimmer. His eyes, once cold and confident, now darted nervously around the room. The human judge was an elderly woman named Justice, Margaret Stone. She had served on Earth's highest courts for 40 years. Her face showed no emotion as she read the charges. "High Adjudicator Varanthus, you are charged with crimes against sentience. Specifically, you are charged with the deliberate murder of 312 children and 47 caretakers at Starlight Haven Orphanage. You are further charged with falsifying intelligence to justify this attack and with attempting to murder civilians during the Battle of Mithrin Prime." Varanthus tried to maintain his dignity. "I do not recognize this court. I am an official of the Mithrani Empire. I answer only to the Galactic Council." Justice Stone looked at him without expression. "The Galactic Council has no authority here. You will answer for your crimes." The prosecution presented its evidence methodically. They showed the falsified intelligence reports that Varanthus had created. They played the recordings of the secret council meeting where the attack was planned. They displayed the communications between Alina Vasquez and the council ships, proving that Varanthus knew the orphanage was not a military installation. Then they showed the footage. The courtroom fell silent as images from that terrible day filled the screens. Children playing in the garden, unaware of the darkness above. Alina Vasquez desperately trying to save them. The first explosions, the fire, the destruction. The final image was Alina covering 3 children with her body. Her eyes were closed. Her arms were wrapped tight around little Kira, Sophie, and Bryn. The image froze on her face, peaceful even in that moment of horror. Across the galaxy, viewers wept. Species that had never shown emotion found tears running down their faces. The image was burned into the memory of every being who saw it. Varanthus tried to defend himself. "It was a strategic decision," he said. "Humanity was growing too powerful. Their compassion was obviously a deception. We had to act before they became a true threat." The prosecutor, a young human lawyer named James, responded quietly. "So you murdered 312 children because you were afraid of kindness?" "I was protecting my people." "You were protecting your power. You were afraid that humanity's example would show the galaxy a better way. You were afraid that compassion might become more popular than cruelty." James turned to the screens. He displayed the names and faces of every child who died. One by one. 312 photographs of children who would never grow up. "These were the threats you eliminated," James said. Thomas, age 7. He was learning to read. Lyra, age 8. She loved looking at stars. Kira, age 6. She survived the war that killed her parents, only to die in a place that was supposed to keep her safe. He faced Varanthus directly, called humans weak because we show mercy. You called us foolish because we raised the children of our enemies. But we are not the ones sitting in chains today. We are not the ones whose fleet was destroyed. We are not the ones who will be remembered by history as child murderers. The trial lasted 5 days. On the 6th day, Justice Stone delivered the verdict. High Adjudicator Varanthus, this court finds you guilty on all charges. She paused. You will spend the remainder of your life in isolation on a dead moon. Your only companions will be recordings of the names you ordered silenced. 312 names. Playing on loop forever. Varanthus screamed as guards dragged him away. His screams echoed through the courtroom until the doors closed behind him. The next day, President Shah addressed the galaxy once more. This time, her tone was different. The cold fury was gone. In its place was something unexpected. Hope. Citizens of the galaxy, she began. You have seen what humanity does when our children are threatened. You have seen our strength. You have seen our resolve. Now I want to show you something else. I want to show you our vision for the future. She outlined a new proposal called the Compact of Protected Peoples. Any species that joined would receive human protection against aggression. They would gain access to human medical technology. Their children would be welcomed in human schools and universities. In return, they would agree to one simple rule. No signatory would ever attack civilians or children of any species for any reason. We do not want to rule the galaxy, Shah said. We want to protect it. We want to build a future where no child ever dies because some official decided they were a strategic threat. She extended her hand to the screen. Join us. Help us build something better. The response was overwhelming. Within a week, 47 species had applied for membership in the Compact. More followed every day. The Galactic Council, already weakened by the loss of the Mithrani fleet, began to fracture as member species defected. The biggest surprise came from the Zythani. These former enemies of humanity were the first to join the Compact. Their ambassador, a tall female with silver eyes, delivered a speech that moved millions to tears. Humanity defeated us in war, she said. They could have destroyed us. They could have enslaved us. Instead, they built an orphanage to raise our children. They gave love to the sons and daughters of their enemies. She bowed her head. We were too blind to understand this gift. The Council was too afraid to accept it. But we see clearly now. Humanity does not want conquest. They want family. And we are honored to be part of that family. 1 year later, a new orphanage opened on a world jointly administered by humans and Zythani. They built it together, stone by stone, as a symbol of their new partnership. They called it Elena's Light. The orphanage was 3 times the size of Starlight Haven. It had gardens and playgrounds, classrooms filled with books. Children from dozens of species lived there together, learning and growing and laughing. Admiral Harrison visited on the opening day. He walked slowly through the grounds, watching the children play. A group of Velthri younglings chased a ball across the grass. A corn cub practiced reading under a tree. And everywhere, human children played alongside those who had once been called enemies. A small hand touched his fingers. He looked down to see a young Mithrani girl standing beside him. She was perhaps 7 years old, with scales that shimmered in the sunlight. She was one of the war orphans that humanity had adopted after the battle. Are you the Admiral? She asked. Harrison knelt, so he could look into her eyes.
I am.
My teachers told me what happened at the battle. They said you protected our stations. They said you saved the civilians, even though we were your enemies. She tilted her head. Why did you do that? Harrison thought for a long moment before answering. Because you are not your leaders. Because children are never the enemy. Because protecting innocence is not weakness, it is the greatest strength there is. He smiled gently. That is what being human means. The girl considered this. Then she hugged him. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, and she held on tight. Harrison closed his eyes. He thought of his daughter, lost so many years ago. He thought of Elena Vasquez, who had given everything to protect children who were not her own. He thought of 312 names carved into a memorial on a distant world, but mostly, he thought about the future. The wars were not over. The challenges were not finished. But for the first time in a long while, he could see something worth fighting for. A galaxy where compassion was strength. A galaxy where children could grow up safe and loved. A galaxy where the dream that Alina had died for might actually come true. The girl released him and ran off to join her friends. Harrison watched her go, feeling something warm spread through his chest. It took him a moment to recognize the emotion. Hope above him, the stars shone bright and clear. Somewhere out there, new orphanages were opening. New treaties were being signed. New friendships were being formed between species that had been enemies for generations. Humanity shown the galaxy what they were capable of. Not just destruction, but creation. Not just strength, but mercy. Not just victory, but justice. And across the cosmos, a new era was beginning. An era built on the simple truth that Alina Vasquez had given her life to prove: children are never the enemy, and those who protect them will inherit the stars. The end.